Creepiness finally comes back to haunt Uncle Joe. President Trump mulls whether to close the border, and Democrats demonstrate their lack of knowledge. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. I've been saying for weeks, President Biden, Vice President Biden, that his best day will be his first day, and then his worst day will be every day after that. I will provide you the evidence of this contention in just 1 second. But first, in 2008, the U.S. national debt was $10 trillion. Today, the debt is nearly $22 trillion. It is rising like a hockey stick. If you don't think we are sitting on a house of cards, you are living with your head in the sand. But since you listen to my podcast, you're clearly smarter than the average bear. So what is your plan? Can you afford another hit to your retirement like the last downturn when the S&P dropped 50%? Hedge against inflation, hedge against uncertainty and instability with precious metals. Gold is a safe haven against uncertainty. My savings plan is diversified, and yours should be too, at least a little bit. The company I trust with precious metal purchases is Birch Gold Group. And right now, thanks to a little-known IRS tax law, you can even move that IRA or eligible 401k into an IRA backed by physical gold and silver, perfect for people who want to protect their hard-earned retirement savings from any future geopolitical uncertainty. If you look back historically, when the bottom falls out of everything else, gold does tend to safeguard savings. Birch Gold Group has thousands of satisfied customers, countless 5-star reviews, and A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. Contact Birch Gold, get a free information kit on physical precious metals today. See if diversifying into gold and silver makes sense for you. You can go check them out right now at birchgold.com/Ben or text Ben to 474747. Get that no cost, no obligation kit. Text Ben to 474747 again. That's text my name, Ben, to 474747 for more information. Alrighty, so Vice President Joe Biden, if you look at the polls right now, the early primary polls, he's leading. He's got close to 30% in most of these polls. Bernie Sanders trails him, or by up to 10 points. Sometimes it's a little bit closer. But Joe Biden has one kind of serious problem that has now cropped up over the last 3 days.
Can't keep my hands to myself.
Yeah, that right there's the problem. So according to one accuser, there's an accuser who has come forward and suggested that she was inappropriately touched and kissed by Joe Biden. Now, that sounds a little bit worse than it is. Here is what she actually has to say. Her name is Lucy Flores, and we have to take her account with a slight grain of salt in the sense that she was seen attending a Beto rally within the last week or two. But she says this: in 2014, I was the 35-year-old Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor of Nevada. This is according to New York Magazine. The landscape wasn't looking good for my party that year. There were no high-profile national races to help boost turnout, and after the top candidate bowed out of the governor's race, none of the above ended up winning the Democratic primary. So when my campaign heard from VP Joe Biden's office that he was looking to help me and other Democrats in the state, I was grateful and flattered. His team offered to bring him to a campaign rally in an effort to help boost voter turnout. We set the date for November 1st, just 3 days before Election Day. In a state as large but sparsely populated as Nevada, writes Lucy Flores, it takes nonstop travel to connect with all of its residents. I sprayed some dry shampoo in my hair, raced off to Reno Airport, and flew back to Las Vegas. The event proceeded as most political events do, coordinated chaos with random problems that no one can predict. And then Joe Biden showed up. She says, I found my way to the holding room for the speakers, where everyone was chatting, taking photos, and getting ready to speak to the hundreds of voters in the audience. Just before the speeches, we were ushered to the side of the stage where we were lined up by order of introduction. As I was taking deep breaths and preparing myself to make my case to the crowd, I felt 2 hands on my shoulders. I froze. Why is the Vice President of the United States touching me? I felt him get closer to me from behind. He leaned further in and inhaled my hair. I was mortified. I thought to myself, I didn't wash my hair today, and the Vice President of the United States is smelling it. And also, what in the actual F? Why is the Vice President of the United States smelling my hair? He proceeded to plant a big, slow kiss on the back of my head. My brain couldn't process what was happening. I was embarrassed. I was shocked. I was confused. There's a Spanish saying, tragami tierra. It means earth, swallow me whole. I couldn't move and I couldn't say anything. I wanted nothing more than Biden to get away from me. My name was called and I was never happier to get on stage in front of an audience. She says, I had never experienced anything so blatantly inappropriate and unnerving before. Biden was the second most powerful man in the country and arguably one of the most powerful men in the world. He was there to promote me as the right person for the lieutenant governor job. Instead, he made me feel uneasy, gross, and confused. The VP of the United States had just touched me in an intimate way reserved for close friends, family, or romantic partners, and I felt powerless to do anything about it. So why exactly didn't she say anything for years? Well, she says she told a few on her staff what happened immediately. She said she didn't plan on telling anybody else. She said, I didn't have the language or the outlet to talk about what happened. Well, I mean, she was the nominee for lieutenant governor, so that's probably not true. She says, who do you tell? What do you say? Is it enough of a transgression if a man touches and kisses you without consent but doesn't rise to the level of what most people consider sexual assault? I did what most women do and moved on with my life and work. Time passed and pictures started to surface of VP Biden getting uncomfortably close with women and young girls. Biden nuzzling the neck of the defense secretary's wife. Biden kissing a senator's wife on the lips. Biden whispering in women's ears. Biden snuggling female constituents. I saw obvious discomfort in the women's faces, and Biden, I'm sure, never thought twice about how it made them feel. I knew I couldn't say anything publicly about what those pictures surfaced for me. My anger and my resentment grew. Had I never seen those pictures, I may have been able to give Biden the benefit of the doubt. And then she continues and talks about why exactly she didn't do anything. She says, but the problem now is it shows a lack of empathy for the women and young girl whose space he is invading and ignores the power imbalance that exists between Biden and the women he chooses to get cozy with. She says, when I spoke to a male friend who's also a political operative in Biden's orbit, he did what no one else had and made me question myself and wonder if I was doing the right thing. He reminded me that Biden has significant resources and argued points that made me question my memory, even though I've replayed that scene in my mind 1,000 times. He reminded me that my credibility would be attacked and that I should be prepared for the type of back and forth that could occur. I'm not suggesting that Biden broke any laws, but the transgressions that society deems minor or doesn't even see as transgressions often feel considerable to the person on the receiving end. That imbalance of power and attention is the whole point and the whole problem. Okay, so here is Biden's accuser suggesting that what she really wants is just for him to acknowledge his wrong, the invasion of her personal space. Now, of course, she knows that if he acknowledges his wrong, then he's basically toast. Because if you acknowledge wrong in this witch hunt environment, then you are finished. Now, we'll discuss whether Joe Biden is in fact a creeper or whether he just kind of acts like a creeper in just a second. But here's Lucy Flores on CNN with Jake Tapper.
What are you looking for from the vice president here, Vice President Biden? Are you looking for an apology? Are you looking for him to change his behavior? What's the end game here? What do you want?
Absolutely. Yes, of course I want him to change his behavior. And I want him to acknowledge that it was wrong. And I want this to be a bigger discussion about how there is no accountability structure within our political space. We are not protected in politics.
Okay, so it is true that there are situations in which men have in public harassed women, right? This would be the story of Al Franken. Multiple women alleging that Al Franken groped their behinds while he was taking pictures with them. But let's be straight about this. The only actual accusation of truly inappropriate conduct here, or at least conduct that made someone feel bad, is Lucy Flores, right? That's the real case. Now, the reason this is resonating is, of course, because there are plenty of pictures of Joe Biden acting creepy with women. I mean, here's just a little bit of Joe Biden acting creepy with women and young girls.
Can't keep my hands to myself.
So you can see him, he's kind of nuzzling this little girl who happens to be the daughter of a sitting senator. And she's kind of pulling away from him because he's getting too close. And then he gives her a kiss on the head. And here's him with another little girl. And he kind of leans forward and whispers into her ear, puts both his hands on her shoulders. Another senator's daughter. He's talking to another woman there, getting kind of cozy. There he is getting cozy with a very little girl, who of course is not his grandkid. And here he is kind of stroking the face of a very small girl who doesn't look supremely comfortable with the whole thing. And there he is kind of putting his hands through a little girl's hair. So he does this all the time. I mean, he's like stroking faces. And then, of course, the most famous one is him holding the shoulders and then leaning in and sort of whispering to the wife of Ash Carter on the day that her husband was sworn in as defense secretary. And, of course, a lot of people pointed out that was weird. But Stephanie Carter, who is that wife and who has been featured in virtually all of these photos, she says, no, this wasn't a thing. So she has a piece today called The Me Too Story That Wasn't Me. She says, it happened 2 weeks ago. I was at an industry conference comprised of my female peers. Well, it would be the last time there, as I had announced my intent to start my own company, when a friend ran up to me joyously stating she had seen me. I assumed she was referring to a recent piece in an industry newsletter about my retirement from my firm and transition to entrepreneurship. But she quickly let me know it was, again, that picture which Jimmy Fallon had shown the night before. Last night, I received a text from a friend letting me know that picture was once again all over Twitter in connection to Lucy Flores' personal account of a 2014 encounter with Joe Biden. Let me state up front that I don't know her, but I absolutely support her right to speak her truth, and she should be, like all women, believed. But her story is not mine. The Joe Biden in my picture is a close friend helping someone get through a big day, for which I will always be grateful. So, as sole owner of my story, it is high time I reclaim it from strangers, Twitter, the pundits, and late-night hosts. And she talks about how The day that her husband was being sworn in as Secretary of Defense, she was very nervous. There was a point at which she slipped. And then came the time that she was standing there while her husband was being sworn in. She says, after the swearing in, as Ash was giving remarks, he leaned in, this would be Biden, to tell me thank you for letting him do this and kept his hands on my shoulder as a means of offering support. But a still shot taken from a video, misleadingly extracted from what was a longer moment between close friends, sent out in a snarky tweet, came to be the lasting image of that day. As I arrived home to my apartment that night, I was starting to get a sense from incoming texts that picture was picking up steam, says Stephanie Carter, this is Ash Carter's wife. I got on the elevator and must have been too lost in thought to notice someone next to me. As I got off the elevator, the young woman started walking down the hall and began to feel her footsteps pick up close to mine. As I reached my door, I turned around to find her practically on top of me. When I confronted her, she said she was a reporter from the New York Post, and did I have a comment about that picture? I quickly went inside and locked the door. She says it didn't stop the next day or the day after that, and she talks about how for years now, people have been basically using this as proof that Biden doesn't know how to respect women. He says, I thought it would all blow over. This is Stephanie Carter. I thought it would all blow over if I didn't dignify it with a response. But clearly that was wishful thinking. I won't pretend this will be the last of that picture, but it will be the last of other people speaking for me. So Stephanie Carter has a very different experience than Lucy Flores. She says, no, Biden is handsy, but he's not even handsy, is what she's saying. She's saying that we are just close friends. And Biden himself has put out a statement on all of this. We'll get to that in just 1 second. First, let's talk about that hair atop your head. Losing your hair stinks. You don't realize how much you care about it until you start losing it, which is why you should be using Keeps, the easiest and most affordable way to keep the hair that you have. These FDA-approved products used to cost so much, but now, thanks to Keeps, they are finally inexpensive and easy to get. For 5 minutes now, just $1 a day, you're never going to have to worry about hair loss again. Getting started with Keeps is actually really easy. Sign up takes less than 5 minutes. You just answer a few questions and you snap some photos of your hair. And then a licensed physician will review your information online and recommend the right treatment for you. It's shipped direct to your door every 3 months. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA hair loss products out there. Some of you have probably tried them before. You've probably never gotten them for this price. Keeps is only $10 to $35 a month. Plus, now you can get your first month for free. It's a heck of a deal for getting to keep your hair. To receive your first month of treatment for free, go to keeps.com/Ben. That is KEEPS.com/Ben. Here's the thing. Once you start losing all of your hair, it's kind of too late. If all your hair is gone, nothing in the world can regrow it. But there are drugs on the market that can prevent you from losing your hair, and that's why you should reach out to Keeps. They will give you a free month of treatment at keeps.com/Ben. That's keeps.com/Ben. Keeps. Hair today, hair tomorrow. Go check them out right now. Okay, so Joe Biden is responding to this controversy with a statement. He says, in my many years on the campaign trail and in public life, I've offered countless handshakes, hugs, expressions of affection, support, and comfort, Biden said. And not once, never did I believe I acted inappropriately. If it is suggested I did so, I will listen respectfully, but it was never my intention. He said, I may not recall these moments the same way. I may be surprised at what I hear, but we have arrived at an important time when women feel they can and should relate their experiences, and men should pay attention, and I will. I will also remain the strongest advocate I can be for the rights of women, and then he talks about how his politics should basically excuse any behavior that women have perceived as wrong. So there's Biden basically understanding that he's in a bind now that he can't get out of, because we live in a culture where a woman's accusation of wrongdoing is tantamount to proof that the wrongdoing occurred. Remember, these are the same Democrats who said that Christine Blasey Ford, when it came to Brett Kavanaugh, was innately telling the truth, that all of the other accounts were to be believed as well, until it turned out that they fell apart or were to be ignored. And then they said that Brett Kavanaugh could not sit on the Supreme Court because of all of that. We live in a time when if a woman says that for a subjective reason she feels as though she was abused in some way, that the man is to blame for the subjective feeling of abuse. Now, I will say that as a personal practitioner of the I don't get close to people without their consent thing, I've always found Joe Biden's behavior creepy. I've never been a big fan of this, but there are people out there who are just huggers. There are people out there who don't understand the limits of personal space. These are the people who are the close talkers, the people who at parties feel like it's good to shake your hand and then hold your hand too long. There are people who are like this. That doesn't mean that they are attempting to harass you. And intent does matter here, at least somewhat, because there's a difference between a sexual assault, which presumably requires a certain level of intent, and I held your hand too long and it was awkward for you, but I didn't even know what the hell was going on. Ignorance, in fact, is somewhat of a defense, at least to the idea that you are a creepy person who deserves to be treated as some sort of moral sinner in this way. So this is not a full defense of Joe Biden, but it is true that Joe Biden's behavior has never really been complained about by anybody except for this one particular woman. Now, if a spate of women come out and they say that he's been randomly coming up to me at parties and then kissing me on the back of the head, I mean, look, that's weird behavior. It's just weird, odd behavior. And again, if somebody came up to my wife and put their hands on her shoulders and kissed her on the back of the head the first time they met her, that person may end up knocked to the ground. That's not appropriate behavior. But with that said, Joe Biden, people get accustomed to being treated in a certain way, and Joe Biden apparently has gotten accustomed to being able to get away with this kind of behavior to the point where I'm not sure he even notices it now. Now, I will say that the media coverage of this is very different because Joe Biden is a Democratic frontrunner than it would be were he not. I will tell you about a Washington Post headline in just a second. So, the Washington Post's headline today in the politics section, quote, Joe Biden's affectionate physical style with women comes under scrutiny. Okay. The descriptors there, instead of just Joe Biden's physical style with women comes under scrutiny, affectionate physical style with women. Oh, that's what it is. That's all he is. The Washington Post says this affectionate and sometimes intimate physical style is one of the former vice president's trademarks, a defining feature of the warm and upbeat persona he has built during more than 4 decades in the national spotlight. Oh, that's the defining feature of the warm and upbeat persona is what it is. It's not just him randomly getting too close to people because he doesn't understand personal boundaries. But the appropriateness of Biden's physical behavior toward women is now being questioned after a female Democratic politician penned a viral internet piece describing an alleged 2014 encounter that left her offended and uncomfortable. Now, here's where the trouble comes in. It is difficult to determine whether people are truly outraged or whether there is just political hay being made while the sun shines. And I'll demonstrate. So Bernie Sanders, who is in a position to hurt Biden here, if he were to come out against Biden, says, listen, I'm not sure that one complaint really discredits Biden. Here's Bernie Sanders on Face the Nation suggesting that, well, this woman should be listened to. Is that really an indicator that Joe Biden is a serial sexual assaulter in some way?
She says she's coming forth now because she thinks it's disqualifying for Joe Biden. Do you think it's disqualifying?
Well, I think that's a decision for the vice president to make. I'm not sure that one incident alone disqualifies anybody, but her point is absolutely right. This is an issue not just the Democrats or Republicans. The entire country has got to take seriously. It is not acceptable that when a woman goes to work or is in any kind of environment that she feels anything less than comfortable and safe.
Okay, now what's hilarious, again, is that the same Democrats who complain about this sort of stuff and say that women need to be feeling safe at the office, something with which I agree, will rip on Mike Pence for saying that he doesn't want to meet alone with women for fear of being accused of inappropriate behavior. Dick Durbin says the same thing. He says, listen, one allegation here is not disqualifying for Joe Biden. This is the senator from Illinois.
Joe Biden is a friend and a seasoned veteran when it comes to political campaigns. I know nothing about the allegations that I also read this morning as well. I think all of us should take such allegations seriously and with respect. I took Joe Biden's statement to say just that exactly. So, yes, I think he's ready, if that's his decision, to move forward in this presidential campaign. We have a spirited field of 15 or 16 candidates
this isn't disqualifying
across the spectrum in the Democratic Party and its values. Certainly one allegation is not disqualifying, but it should be taken seriously.
Okay, so I actually think that Dick Durbin's point here is actually pretty well taken, especially because, as it turns out, Lucy Flores is not exactly a politically uncommitted person, right? Lucy Flores is a fan, apparently, of Beto O'Rourke, and she is, it is odd, the timing of all of this. She actually was at a rally for Beto O'Rourke on Saturday. So it's hard to take all of this without at least a grain of salt, even if I think that Joe Biden is handsy with people he should not be handsy with. Honestly, how many guys do you know who are like this? I know people who are like this, older people particularly, who are like this, who, I mean, my wife deals with that on a regular basis as a doctor. She's constantly going into rooms with, usually there's a third person there, and sometimes there are older people there, older men particularly, who will act inappropriately, and it's like, okay, well, my wife sort of just gets over it, which is not a suggestion that the men's behavior is okay, but it's possible that Joe Biden doesn't know what he's doing. Now, it's possible Joe Biden does know what he's doing. I don't know. But I will say that I'm not going to take at face value accusations from people like Elizabeth Warren, who are in a race with Joe Biden. And Elizabeth Warren, I don't remember caring very deeply about Bill Clinton engaging in behavior significantly worse than any of this. So all I'm saying is skepticism of politicians is warranted. Here's Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's flailing around right now. I mean, she is just flailing. She lost her campaign finance director. She's unable to raise money. She's falling apart at the seams, but she does have one line of attack on Joe Biden, and that is that she believes this accuser.
I read the op-ed last night, I believe, Lucy Flores, and Joe Biden needs to give an answer.
should he not run as a result?
That's for Joe Biden to decide.
Okay, so Amy Klobuchar saying the same sort of thing. She of the making her aides clean the combs with which she eats her salad. Here's Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, also running and also doing the same routine.
He's also one who has said in situations like this that the default is to believe the woman, to believe the accuser. Do you believe Lucy Flores?
I have no reason not to believe her, Jonathan. And I think we know from campaigns and from politics that people raise issues and they have to address them. And that's what he will have to do with the voters if he gets into the race.
Okay, so the only point I'm making here is that I don't know the motivations of the people who are attacking Joe Biden here. Again, I think on an objective level, his behavior with people who are not his wife or child, it's weird to me. It's obviously weird to me. But there's only one complaint so far, and that complaint comes from somebody who happens to be politically motivated against Biden and had nothing to say for 5 years about this particular incident. So that makes me a little skeptical. Now, it is also possible that the female senators in the race, maybe some of them have experienced stuff like this, and so they have a stronger belief system on this than the men. Maybe there is an actual sex gap here, and men don't understand what women are going through, and so they're more likely to brush off accusations like the one against Biden. But it's hard for me to take at face value complaints from people who are in direct competition with with Vice President Biden when it comes to all of this. So I will take this more as yet another line of attack against Joe Biden rather than as the Democratic Party suddenly discovering that Joe Biden is weird with women, because he's been weird with women for years. Again, we've seen this sort of stuff going on for legitimately, it's been a meme on the right for half a decade that Joe Biden does this sort of stuff. I mean, there are pictures of him at campaign stops with women on his lap. Joe Biden's been doing this for a long time. No complaints. So kind of hard to take seriously the Democratic Party's sudden observation that Joe Biden is actually creepy with women, as opposed to they're just trying to knock him out of these primaries. Alrighty. So in just a second, we'll get to Democrats who are continuing to flail around for some answers to their own policies. First, let's talk about how you can make your company better. Hiring is challenging. There's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. It's a place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter sends your jobs to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the very first day. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is indeed the smartest way to hire. Again, they're so effective that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the very first day. There's a reason we use ZipRecruiter ourselves here at Daily Wire to run our business. At ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire to try it for free. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. And meanwhile, the Democrats continue to demonstrate that they really don't know a lot of things. And leading the charge is, of course, the inimitable Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. Over the weekend, she suggested that she wants people to debate her, which is odd since when I actually challenged her to a debate, she accused me of catcalling, so there's that. But she had herself a very weird episode of Chris Hayes, All In with Chris Hayes on MSNBC, in which she said a bunch of things that make no sense. And yet she continues to be hailed as some sort of thought leader for the Democratic Party, which is pretty amazing since she doesn't have lots of thoughts. But she doubled down on the notion that we are at risk from cow farts. She doubled down on her Green New Deal. Here is AOC, thought leader of the Democratic Party, continuing to push this nonsense.
We need to innovate on our technology. Obviously, like I had a staffer, release a document that talked about cow flatulence, but
which is an issue. I just want to say.
An issue. But here's
it sounds
the thing.
ridiculous, but it literally is an issue.
But it actually is an issue when it comes to contributing to methane.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you end cows. It means that we need. What it means is that we need to innovate and change our grain, our cow grain from which they feed in these troughs. That we need to really take a look at regenerative agriculture. Like these are our solutions.
Right. What is regenerative agriculture? Like maybe she's just too smart for me. I don't know what the hell she's talking about when she says we have to feed them different grains. Like what, Pepto-Bismol or what? And it literally says in her Green New Deal, frequently asked questions, that we have to end cows. So I'm glad that she's running away from that. At least she realizes that was a bad idea. Then she blamed her staff for the rollout of the Green New Deal. She says, "Oh yeah, that wasn't my fault. That was my staff's fault." It was because they rolled out a draft version of the frequently asked questions. Now, this is just a lie, what you're about to hear, because they rolled out this draft supposedly online. There was no final draft that came after that. Now, normally, there have been cases at Daily Wire where somebody accidentally approves a draft of an article. And you know what we do? We then correct and update the article as soon as possible, meaning like within the hour. We're now like 2 months later, and she still has not released a full frequently asked question. So that was not a draft. That was her final version, and she only realized it was a bad idea after it was released to the public. Nonetheless, here she is blaming her staff for the rollout.
You guys issued an FAQ. It had some things that people thought were ridiculous and radical, like anyone that was unable or unwilling to work would be guaranteed a job. The FAQ was withdrawn and said it was preliminary, a draft. There was a lot of fight about that. Like, do you think you guys rolled it out the right way? Did you bring it any on yourself?
What I will say is that I definitely had a staffer that had a very bad day at work and did release a working draft early. So I get that that's what they're seizing on. But really what we need to do is have a serious conversation.
I'm so sick of her calling for a serious conversation when she won't have one with anyone of merit. Chris Hayes just throws her softball after softball, and she's like, oh, let's have a serious conversation. Really? What's your serious conversation? Is your serious conversation that everybody who criticizes you is in the pay of nefarious right-wing forces? Is your serious conversation that everybody who criticizes you is latently a sexist or a bigot? Is that your serious conversation, AOC? Maybe people who criticize you because you don't know things, because you say dumb crap on a regular basis. E.g., same interview, she explains that Congress passed an amendment to the Constitution to prevent FDR from being reelected. Let me explain why this is dumb in 1 second.
When our party was boldest, the time of the New Deal, the Great Society, the Civil Rights Act, and so on, we had and carried supermajorities in the House, in the Senate. We carried the presidency. They had to amend the Constitution of the United States to make sure Roosevelt did not get reelected. And there were so many extraordinary things that were happening in that time that were uniting working people.
No. No. That is just not true. So it is true that Democrats were winning enormous majorities in the middle of the Great Depression because people were blaming Herbert Hoover and the Republicans for all of that. It is also true that Congress was, in fact, regained by Republicans at some point during this period. But it is also true, wait, hold up. Just hold up for 1 second. Is she claiming that the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was passed to prevent FDR from winning another election? Is that the actual contention? Because it was actually ratified. The completed ratification happened in 1951. That was the last state to ratify. That was Alabama, which ratified in 1951. FDR died in 1944. They started the initiation of this process after his death. So how did they pass a constitutional amendment to stop him from serving after he was dead? What? Okay, but it's okay. She knows things, guys. She knows things. The beauty of being a Democrat is that no matter how radical you are, there are always members of the media like Chris Hayes to defend you. You want to see a great example of the media not asking eminently obvious follow-up questions? So Bernie Sanders was asked over the weekend accidentally on Face the Nation an actual question. So he says that he will lower prescription prices. Watch the follow-up.
If I am elected president, I'm going to cut prescription drug costs in this country by 50% so that we are not paying any more than other major countries are paying. Maybe we can do better than that. Because we will look at the average costs of prescription drugs in Canada, the UK, Germany, Japan, and France. Well, we will look at their average costs, which are 50% lower than they are in the United States, and we will do that.
And then she says, so your Medicare for All plan is popular. Okay, you looking at average costs doesn't actually make the costs go down. But she doesn't ask, okay, so how will that accomplish anything? How will you looking at the average cost of drugs in France and Canada make the drug prices in the United States go down? She doesn't ask that question. Instead, she just goes, so Medicare for All, really popular, huh? Very convenient to be a Democrat. The radicalism of the Democrats was on full display over the weekend. We'll get to a little bit more of that. We will also get to the crisis on our southern border where legitimately thousands and thousands of people are arriving. We just don't have the facilities to handle all of them. First, let's talk about those hideous window treatments that you've got. I'm talking about the blinds in your home. Let's be honest, taking the time to pick out and buy blinds, it sounds expensive, kind of boring. Installing them yourself sounds harder than any self-respecting adult wants to admit, but Blinds.com makes it really easy for you. You're not sure what you want or even where to start? With Blinds.com, you get a free online design consultation. You just send them pictures of your house, and they send back custom recommendations from a professional for what will work with your color scheme, furniture, and specific rooms. They will even send you free samples to make sure everything looks as good in person as it does online. Every order gets free shipping. And here's the best part. If you accidentally mismeasure or pick the wrong color, if you make a mistake, Blinds.com will remake your blinds for free. They've made it easy for you, so there's no excuse to leave up those mangled blinds that make your place look like a set from The Wire. For a limited time, get 20% off everything at Blinds.com when you use promo code BEN. That is Blinds.com, promo code BEN for 20% off everything. Faux wood blinds, cellular shades, roller shades, and more. Blinds.com, promo code BEN. Rules and restrictions do apply. I've used Blinds.com myself. It is super convenient, super easy, and they are extraordinarily effective. All of their services are great. Go check them out right now at Blinds.com. Use promo code BEN to get 20% off everything. Okay, in just a second, we're going to get to the rest of the Democrats plus the crisis on the southern border. And it's April Fool's, so that means we have to let the left teach us biology for a minute. But first, you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com. And for $9.99 a month, you can subscribe to dailywire.com. That means you get the rest of this show live. It means the rest of my show later today live. We got 2 more additional hours that come to you every single day. And you get it commercial-free on demand when you are a subscriber. That's a lot of material. When you get the annual subscription, you get this. The very greatest in beverage vessels, the leftist tears, hot or cold tumbler. Go take a look at it right now. It's unreal. It's so good. Also, make sure that you go pick up a new copy of my new book, The Right Side of History, the #1 New York Times bestseller. It continues to soar on the bestseller charts. Go check that out right now. I think that you will really enjoy it. I think it's a meaningful book all about sort of what Western civilization is and the roots in which it is based. Go check that out right now. There are all sorts of goodies, by the way, when you subscribe, too, beyond just my show. You also get Andrew Klavan's show. You get Michael Knowles' show, if that's something you're interested in. You get Matt Walsh's show. He was on our Sunday special. And speaking of the Sunday special, when you subscribe, our Sunday special becomes the Saturday special. You can watch it a day early. Plus, there's additional material behind the paywall you won't get if you simply download the episode every week. So go check out all of those aforementioned glories. Also, check us out at YouTube or iTunes. Please subscribe and leave us a review over there. It always helps us. We're the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast and radio show in the nation.